Oops. So, hello, welcome today to this session. Just close that for me. So, I'm just going to minimize my screen first so I can have a look at this. So today's was we're going to be doing some learning as usual. I'm hoping to do about an hour's learning and then 30 minutes of sharing what's worked and what hasn't worked for each other, learning from each other and asking questions. And if there's anything that I talk about in the next hour that you would like me to show in more detail and the group would like me to show more detail, I can obviously do that in that extra 30 minutes. For now, if you don't mind muting yourselves and also hiding your cameras just for now so that we can everyone can all see the screens. And then what will happen is if you want to talk to me, ask a question, if you wouldn't mind using the chat box, I will check that on a regular basis and answer questions. And if you really do want to talk, and obviously then you can always put your camera on and unmute yourself and talk to the whole of the group. Please feel free to do that. It is an interactive session. Even though I've got quite a lot to talk to you, I really like your input on it. So today was about the 3 secrets to delivering really valuable business advice. And today there's lots of things obviously within the AVN toolbox that I could talk about. Today I'm going to talk about some key basic stuff, but also some advanced member tools that would just give you that edge for doing business growth advice. So the three things I'm really going to talk about today, I've sort of summarized in this slide here. So first of all, look and listen, and I'm going to talk about that quite a bit in a minute. Secondly, understand and show potential. And third, measure and connect the value to you. Because it's only unless you do that, only until you come connect in your customer's mind, your client's mind, that what has happened, the change that has happened in their business is down to you, that they will accept obviously the fees that you'll need to charge for your support and help. So it's really important that we regularly measure and connect back. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the look and listen. And if I just explain a little bit about what I mean about that. When you're giving business advice, okay, you need to be working much more closely with your client than you work now in a lot of circumstances, in situations. So for a lot of them, as you start helping them grow their business and develop, you become an integral part of their business. You are part of their team. Although you are an external advisor as such, you are part of what they're doing. And so in order to do that, in order to feel part of them, you need to build rapport. You need to make sure that, first of all, you know and you sort of like and you trust each other. Because importantly, unless they trust you, they are not going to follow your advice. So how do you get them to feel like they know, like, and trust you? Okay. So, and that's really what I'm going to be covering for the next few minutes. I think the other thing that's really important is you must always ask permission to take notes and everything. And I'm hoping you're going to be taking notes today for all these things, so that afterwards, when you look at your notes, you're going to come back to me with any other questions that you have or anything else you want me to show. But the whole point is you're going to say, let me take notes. And for those of you who remember at Masterclass, Steve says that when you do this, when you take notes, when people tell you things, you need to write it down verbatim. You need to use exactly the language that they use. So the important things to look for, obviously, when you talk to people are body language and facial expressions. And you're also going to be making sure that you understand the terminology. So they're listening to the tone and their passion, because that's important, isn't it? When you're saying to somebody, what's your goal out of life? The tone and the passion with which they explain that goal, that vision to you, can tell you how dedicated they are to achieving it. And if they can't give you that picture with some passion, with some reason behind it, then you know it's the wrong goal, it's the wrong vision for them. And so you need to dig a bit deeper. So thinking about, at the beginning, we're going to try and make sure that we're getting rapport with somebody, we're getting the know, like, and trust. So you need to look at their body language and you look at the facial expressions. Now, there's been a lot of stuff out there about body languages, you know, about people with arms crossed, people who look like they're looking at the ceiling and ignoring you and things like that. Please don't read too much into that at the moment. I know it can be, when you look at somebody, you might think they're very, very closed body language, arms crossed, whatever. It isn't always a negative thing. I'm going to talk a little bit about people's profiles and who they are a little bit too. It's not always a bad thing. And facial expressions, sometimes that can be really hard. For example, if you've got somebody whose natural inclination is that they are a reflector, they have to think about things as you talk about it, then they won't look you in the eye. They will think, oh yeah, let me just think about that. That can be very disconcerting in a meeting, when it appears that somebody isn't listening to you. But again, understanding about that person, and I'll give a little bit about that, then that will help you with that. But again, first of all, you see whether they are engaged with you. And sometimes that can be they're sitting forward, looking at your face, being excited. But one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about was a bit about the language, because you can use that as clues. Most of you will already know about VAC, which is now VARC actually, because R is a read-write thing that they've now built in. But the three I want to look at are the visual, auditory and kinesthetic. Because people have natural preferences, okay? Some people are more visual, some people will like to watch videos, will like to be on camera. Some people hate that, obviously. Some people are auditory, they will like to listen to stuff, you know, they will listen to recordings of things. They will come online and they'll be listening, but they might not be looking at the screen. Some people are kinesthetic, which means hands-on, and they have to feel it, they have to try stuff. So in training, we often try and build in everything. So we might put stuff on the screen like I'm doing now. Obviously, I'm talking, auditory. And if I was talking to you about a piece of software, I would suggest that you would be physically using it at the same time as me, so that we'll get all of it. But you can actually listen to people, how people talk, and find out what their preferences are. What is their natural preference? I'm hoping this works now. I'm hoping you can all see this. Can you tell me if you can see a slide with Word for me? Put anything in the chat book. Sorry. Fantastic, thank you. So I'm just going to make this a bit bigger so you can all see it. Okay. So there are various words that will suggest to you people's natural preferences, whether they're visual, audio and kinesthetic. So I'm just going to show you a few of them. So if somebody says to you, when you talk to somebody and they go, that looks good to me, obviously they're visual. If you ask them to do something and they'll go, I'll see to it, again, visual. They might want to talk about things, you know, I'm glad to see we see eye to eye. I get the picture. It appears to me that this looks like. The various words here, people feed into the language that they use all the time. And so it's quite interesting. You could have key questions like, you know, what do you feel about that? That would be kinesthetic, wouldn't it? How does that look to you if somebody is visual? Does that sound good if you're auditory? You can build these words into your language, and knowing people's preferences, in this case the VAC or natural preferences, means that you build rapport, because if you could use the same language in return, then they feel that you are like them, okay? And you automatically, behind the heads, get that connection. So here I've got some visual ones, okay? And I'd really like you to think about which of these things do you say, you know, have a look. Here are some auditory ones. Oh, that rings a bell. Everything just clicked into place. Sounds good to me. I hear what you say. Listen to this. Oh, we're on the same wavelength now. Those, again, triggers of words. And it's important that, because you're understanding them and you're starting to build, and that's the key thing, that listen to understanding the person, because all this knowledge that you glean about them will be indispensable when you have to start talking to them and helping them set goals and advice, okay? If you can use language that fits, excuse me, fits with their natural preferences, then they are more likely to take action. So now I'm going to move on to kinesthetic. Okay, so here we go. It feels right. Let's touch base on that. How does that grab you? Oh, it rubs me up the wrong way. They're all different phrases. And it's really interesting, I think, to look at these. I'm just going to scroll back up again, just a quick reminder. They're looking at they are all saying the same thing, but the language is very different. Understanding that language gives you such a great idea of what's going on with somebody. So again, just have a quick looking at the visual, auditory, which of these are you? Okay, what's your preference? And if you know it, write it down. Okay, now to be honest, most of us are a combination. We are not one or the other. I don't know how many of you have done the VAC test. I've done it several times, and I am equal in every section. I'm sort of a band of all in the middle. So it doesn't matter to me what language is used. It fits for all of me. But some people aren't. Some people are very, very focused in one area, and knowing that is really, really useful. So I'm going to send you a little challenge, okay? First of all, if I just close this for a second. What I want to do is just talk to you about setting you a little bit of challenge here, okay? So the challenge is, now understanding your own preference, I'd like you to go home and talk to your other half and listen to the language that they use, okay? What language is their preference? So that's really interesting, isn't it, to think about what language do they use? And then if you can find out what language they use, if you can see, are they visual, are they auditory, are they kinesthetic, the challenge is, can you adapt your language to reflect that back? And having done that, how does that affect the communication between you? Okay, test it at home. It's really interesting to try it at home first, because when you see it work, it might be a good thing to do with your kids as well. You know, it's interesting when you see it with your children. But once you can see it work, then you know that actually doing it with your clients, it feels a bit silly to begin with, but knowing that actually there is an effect, that communication, which is the key to everything, isn't it? Helping you communicate better by understanding the sort of language people use, is it visual, auditory, kinesthetic, can make such a difference. It can shortcut the work that you do together. It can shortcut how you feel about things. So what I want to talk about as well is I want to talk about other things that you could do within that area. So we've talked a bit about the type of language they use. The other thing to think about is the speed of the language that they use, okay? So knowing the speed, that can also help you. And the reason I'm talking about speed is because that's also linked to people's profiles. And again, I'm just going to hopefully share a screen. And I just want to share this screen with you, if I can just open it up for you. Okay. I'm sorry about the quality of this. I've taken it from some training I've had. I don't know how many of you have ever done a personal profile. It's called DISC profiling in a lot of cases. And I've put this up here to try and talk you through a little bit of it. If it's something that interests you, then I'm quite happy to perhaps put on a different training thing. But I just wanted to cover a few key things about it. Okay. The profiles are designed to tell us a little bit about a person's preferred style, behavioural style at work, okay? But it also tells us a lot of different things. So I've put this up to give you just something to look at while I'm talking to you, for those of you who are visual. But I also want to just explain a little about it. So there are 4 factors: dominance, influence, or in some cases it says inspiring, steadiness, or in some places it's called supportive, and compliance, which sometimes is called conscientious. And there are different factors, and everybody is a combination, and there are various tests you can do online. We recommend Thomas International because their system of creating a DISC profile has been tested for many years through hundreds of thousands of people. They've used it through the services in America and all sorts of things. It also allows for candidates whose English is not their first language. So it's very much understanding all sorts of different nuances about people and how they work in their environment. But there is a free one if you ever wanted to do it yourself. The free one that I thought was quite a lot of fun when I looked at it is actually on Tony Robbins' website. I know you probably have all heard of us going on about Tony Robbins. Some of us went to see him recently. But if you go to tonyrobbins.com and you go right down to the bottom of his very fancy front page, at the very bottom, there is a section called resources, and there's DISC profiling in there, and you can do it for free. Get yourself a little bit of an idea. But let's just talk about it a minute, because again, what I'm trying to discuss today, right back to that one, the first secret is about listening. Look, listen, build rapport. So how do we get the best out of the relationship? And all of this is towards the fact that they're going to listen to what we advise, they're going to take action, and they're going to link it back. You know, how much they spend with us will seem irrelevant compared to how much value they've had from us. So this is just a few things that I want to like to talk to you about, just the different profiles, and just see again, do any of these resonate with you? So a D1, it says here, as you can see, they're quite the driving, compatible, forceful, direct, inquisitive, self-starter, assertive. Now, there are a few things on here that I just really wanted to bring to your attention, because this is about behavior. So again, when you're looking at somebody, when you're trying to judge somebody judge is the wrong word, understand somebody, then perhaps some of the behaviors you might want to think about. So for a D, you know, as you can see, their basic fear is failure. And their motivator is usually authority, and their value is they drive for results. Okay, they've got very direct management style. Okay, so again, understanding this, depending on the actions that you want them to do, are they the right person for the job? Now, what happens is when you look at the behavior of somebody with a high D dominance, is when they approach you, they're very dominant. They try to take over straight away. They come in with a very strong, assertive handshake. Okay, so that they're sort of already like the power position. I don't know if anybody's watching any of the TED Talks about power positions. That's quite interesting. But they've already got that. You know, I am the one in control here. And then what happens is that if you're invited into their office, you'll probably see their office is pretty much disorganized. They dress appropriate to what they think their role is. So that's quite interesting, dependent on their business and the image they want for the business. They will dress appropriately for that. They can appear really impatient and rude and abrupt, and particularly sometimes on the telephone, because what they want are the facts. They are very direct. When they meet you, their eye contact is completely direct, straight in, look in your eye. You know, none of this, not catch up. They look you straight in the eye, firm handshake, and they can be very fidgety when you talk to them. Okay, they get a bit restless. They can look like they're a bit bored, because they are the sort of people who need to know the key facts. Okay, they don't need to know detail. They are not interested in detail. They want to know, what are you going to do for them? How's it going to help them? What's the outcome? Okay, timescales. They want to know, you know, the key bits, and they're really good because actually, you know, they need to be the driving forces of some businesses. Some businesses need that. Like I say, sometimes they are running late. You know, there'll be those people who are a bit running late. They might already be on a phone call and sort of pull you in to come sit down while they finish off, and they might not give you a lot of time. So understanding that about those people, you again know that if you're going to give them business advice moving forward, then that advice needs to be very concise. Okay, so just remembering about that. Okay, we're now going to look at some of the next person. So the next person, we've got our eyes, and they're the influencers. They can be the inspiring people. They are very influential. They're very friendly, verbal, community. They make friends, very positive. They love public praise and recognition. Okay, so they like that from life. They like working with and through people. So they like to be part of something. They're not always complete finishers. They don't always get stuff done. Like that's why it says working with and through, because they are not always the finalizer. But they are very good at presenting an idea, and very good at motivating and engaging people. When you meet them, they will be very enthusiastic. I'm so pleased to meet you. How lovely to see you. They'll be very enthusiastic. And when the handshake is, it could be quite prolonged. They might even do that double handshake thing. So they're sort of very friendly. Their office, if they've invited your office, there'd be pictures of awards they'd won, trophies, anything sort of that shows their qualifications, things like that. They're probably quite snappy dressed. They like to be up with fashion. They can appear quite superficial and impulsive because they're very happy to share their feelings, and they're very sort of, they enthuse a lot about stuff. So sometimes it can appear to be very shallow. That is not the case. Okay, it's just their interaction. Eye contact is usually frequent. I'm very friendly. And they're often very animated. I'm doing it now. I'm not really high eye, but I can see when I'm presenting that I get quite animated about it because I'm very excited about sharing an idea. So it could be that, it depends. They are persuaders as opposed to confrontationists. So whereas the D's will, if there's an issue, they will confront it head on. The I's will think about what can I do to persuade the change. Okay. And you can see as well that they are really good. If you look at the sales negotiation line here, they're really good at opening and presenting an idea. Okay. So again, if you were thinking about working with a business and doing some business growth work, and that business growth work involved engaging that business's team to make quite a big change, then somebody with an I in their profile might be the person who could present the idea to the team, who could persuade them about the outcome, that it would make a positive difference to them. So understanding that, again, is really useful. Because they are not always complete finishers, like I said, they work with and through people, they can often agree to everything you say and then do nothing because they're not really decision makers. So the D's are decision makers. Oh, wow, like that. I make a decision, and that's what's going to happen. Whereas the I's, they might go, oh yeah, but they might not do it. They can appear to be very social. Again, so so they might talk to everybody, be on Facebook, all that chatty stuff. But again, it's really useful to have some of that skill in the persuasive area of the business. The third one I've got here is steadiness. And like I said, it's now starting to be called supportive as well, because these are people who are dependable, deliberate, persistent. They are the people. They are good listeners. They're often kind. It says here their motivator is security. So they want, they're the people who want to make sure that their business keeps on a sure footing. They don't take massive risks. It's good to know about that, isn't it? About people, if they're not big risk takers. No point going on about certain tax opportunities if you know that that's not something they're interested in, because they're not those sort of types of people. They're really good at organising things. So again, they're a bit of doers. So if the business owner is an S, is a doer, you're going to have some challenges with them about getting them to share work out with their team. To delegate is going to be hard for them, okay, because they are doers. And they do it because they are dependable and they're deliberate and they want to make sure that everything's right. So understanding that the challenge for them will be helping them to start being business owners as opposed to the doers. Or if what they do is fabulous and they're great at what they're doing, finding somebody else to be the manager of the business, to help with the strategy side. So again, understanding that about some people, because some people have created their businesses because they were fed up of working with somebody else, because they didn't feel that they were good enough. You know, they weren't dependable, deliberate, and they think they can do a better job. So how can we manage that? When they approach you, they're often a bit tentative, they're considerate, they're very organised. Their handshake is always sincere. You'll find that the pictures in their office may be of possessions or family, things important. They will have certificates, but they will be of competency, okay? And their dress will be comfortable but appropriate to what they're doing. They're usually courteous, well-mannered, that's what it says up there as well, doesn't it? And their eye contact is warm, friendly, and often quite sincere. And they will appear relaxed and attentive because, as you can see there, they are listeners. Their communication style is listening. Okay, so they will listen very carefully to everything you say. They do not like confrontation. Okay, so they will like to smooth it out. So sometimes if you are suggesting something that will demand a change in their business, they will not want to do it because it's so difficult for them to accept that change. And so finding small pigeon steps for that person may be the way to go with that. You see, the D one, if you suggested the change, they go, let's do it tomorrow. Okay, how you make that physically work in their business is a different matter. If the business owner is an S, they'll be going, okay, I can see the validity of that idea. I'm not sure. Let's do it in a while. Let's do it. Or maybe I might think about it in a year's time. And it's your job is to say, well, actually, let's do this a little bit now. Move it forward. Okay. They do strive to maintain the status quo. So often we have clients that we think, oh, we're never going to get any business growth work with these people. You know, they sit there and listen to me time and time again, but actually they don't take any action. And they might seem to be lacking in imagination because they often look like they're content with the way things are. But again, because of their need for security, it might, and their basic feeling insecurity, they might be interested in those business growth ideas, but it's a softly approach. It's giving them that support, that hand holding them, knowing that it's not going to be frightening. So it could be through that. They will often ask you questions to clarify things as well. So they will ask you lots and lots of questions, which is good, giving you lots of information. And they don't talk much, which again, sometimes you're thinking, oh, did they get that? I'm not sure they got that. So you may want to be asking them questions back to just confirm that they've got your message. Okay. And finally, the fourth one is compliance, or like I said, some are calling it conscientious. Okay, so these people are, as you can see, careful, systematic, logical, precise, accurate, perfectionists. They're like standard operating procedures, and they hate conflict. And what I have to say to you is that this is the biggest trait for most of us accountants. Okay, because that's why we do accounts. They're systematic, they're logical, precise, we know when they're right. We can follow procedures for completing the accounts. It's well within our comfort zone. Okay, that doesn't mean we're not also part of the other three. Okay, that nobody is a single one. Everybody is a combination of these, but you will have ones that are more you, as your clients will have more them. And again, it's understanding that to try and adapt your communication with your client to get the best out of them. So let's have a quick look at this compliance one a bit more. So again, one of their things they like is, you can see the management style here on that line. It says directing for D's, motivating for I's, organizing for S, rule enforcement for C's. Okay, and sometimes it is that, and they do seem to be people who just can't think out the box. They just they just follow the rules all the time. Again, helping them change the rules. Understand that you can change the rules and change what you do is something that you could help them with. When you meet them, they will be punctual. They will be prepared. And they will be thoughtful when they ask you a question. They will, just be cautious. The handshake will normally be loose and brief, okay? And their office will be very neat and often a little bit impersonal, apart from their desk might have a little bit on that's, personal. They often dress a little bit conservative. Definitely avoid the sort of flamboyant stuff unless it's in their socks. I sometimes see that. Socks. Somebody will give them a beautiful suit and then they'll have these really crazy socks, which is like that little bit of, I'm just going to be a bit different type thing. That's quite nice. I like that. Shows you a little bit about that dress, doesn't it? They will be very polite and correct and diplomatic. They tend to avoid eye contact unless they really have to, particularly if they think they're being questioned, if the question feels aggressive. And that's, again, you really need to be careful with how your tone is when you ask questions, because sometimes it can feel very frustrating with these people, and that can come over with your tone. And their body language is usually sort of a bit indifferent and expressionless. So again, sometimes you might feel that they've not quite engaged with you. It's not the case. Again, it's about understanding them. They are people who get bogged down in details, okay? And so often you can come up with an idea or a suggestion, and they are, what if, how. There is nothing wrong with these people in your business or in anybody's business. You need them, people to question the validity of action being taken. But there needs to be a point where you go, right, I have answered all your questions. This is what we're doing. And it's the same in any business. So that's why you need a combination of all four. And it's also help if they are a client who gets bogged down by detail, again, helping them put perhaps systems in place so that they understand that chunks of the detail are managed by somewhere else. Or these people might be the perfect people for a one-page plan because you've got the detail there. This is the detail of the information. Or maybe these sort of people might love crunch boards or something like that, which gives them lots of information at the touch of a button because they like the detail. That gives them comfort for detail. Okay, they're very systematic and they're very logical, which is great because they think things through carefully, and they are. But the other thing is sometimes they're a perfectionist, so it means that things don't get done because they don't think they are suitably knowledgeable to do it, or they stick with something for much longer than it needs to be done with. And again, I get feedback from some of you from your team that sort of go, oh, they spend hours and hours on something, and if a cash account doesn't balance by 10p, they look for 10p. And then is that necessary? And having those sort of conversations, they will be very well prepared and they will be on time. And sometimes they do need thinking time. So you may ask them a question and you have to give them enough time, pause to think it through. Now, having gone through all of that, it's really important because understanding that people are a combination of this is really useful. You're not one or the other, but like I said, most people have they have a leaning towards, and quite often a combination. So some people can be dominant and influential, and they're obviously great salespeople who can drive through with results. Some people have the steadiness and the compliance, and they're great people because they're fantastic deliverers of amazing service. There are people who clash, and that is bound to happen, to be honest, in any situation, that you get profiles that seem to clash. So, for example, if you looked at, let's see, D, the high dominance, who are, I don't need any detail, just get on with it. Working with somebody who's C, who needs a lot of detail and needs to have dotted the I's and crossed the T's. Those two personalities could clash. However, they are also two personalities that can work really well together as a team, because if you get somebody who has got the ideas, the D, the driving force, who can then give those ideas to somebody else to flesh out and make it happen, those two people can work really well. So it is a mixture. But what I'm saying to you is that when you meet your client and you look at them and you listen to their language, to see, that you can get rapport through the language you're using, and you look at how they shake hands, how they make eye contact, how they want, you can decide at that point how much information you need to give that person. to try and keep them engaged with you, to keep them excited about what you're doing. So it's really useful for that. So if you were going to meet a D, okay, to build it up, you want to start a meeting with them, and they come to you with a firm handshake, eye contact, whatever, then that sort of person, they don't really want chit chat. They want you to keep it moving. The speed wants to be pretty fast, and you want to let them have control of make them feel like they've got control of the meeting, but obviously help them to come to decisions that will make change in their business. If you've got somebody who's a higher I, and like I said, it is a variety of things, I am a combination of all four of these, then those sort of people, they will like a preliminary chat. How are you? They want to talk about themselves, about their family, about what they've been doing, maybe the sport they're interested in, and they'll want the meeting to be very positive and optimistic. So always talking about really good stuff that could be happening, and engaging them. If it's somebody that you think has the S as their sort of main factor in them, then that sort of person, as you meet them, then you'll probably want to slow down. You'll have a preliminary chat. It'll be about their family. It'll be about the home life as opposed to work. You want to keep calm as you talk about things. And as you talk about changes, business growth work that you could do with them, you're always talking about it being in small steps, step by step. And finally, on the C one, if you talk to them, you're going to realize that you need to talk in detail. You're going to need to talk in tasks. This is what we need to do. And they are the people who love creating an action plan, tick it off, that are doing. So knowing this about people, it's really important, okay, because it can help you. It can help you just get engaged with people. I'm just on my share. So understanding that, I think, is really, really valuable. And this is, like I said, this to me, that's one of the key things, because if you can understand the people and work together, you can understand the language, you can understand a bit how you need to present to them, you have more chance of getting your ideas about business growth accepted. And that's what we're at here, aren't we? We want to deliver really valuable advice. So understanding your client, understanding the way they think, the way they speak, the way they act, and being able to build rapport with them is really, really important. And the other thing is, like, if you meet somebody and from what I've just shown you, you feel that they are S&C, steadiness and compliance, cautiousness, okay? They are not quick decision makers, okay? They might be great business owners. They might have a great business that you believe you can make a massive difference to, but they are not quick decision makers. So if they can't decide to engage you straight away, that's fine. It's not a no. It's not a failure on your part that person hasn't engaged, hasn't signed up on the dotted line. These are people who need to think a bit. So again, for those sorts of people, it might be that what you do is, rather than push it and they say, I need to think about it, it's great. So you give them a point where you're going to reconnect with them. That's lovely. I'm going to call you again in a week, in 3 days' time. If you've got any questions in the meantime, you know where I am. Here's my number. Give them a time either to make a decision or to discuss it again, because you don't want them to be procrastinators either. Okay, they're not good at making decisions, so you do need to encourage them to make decisions. But also, what can we do to don't feel like a failure if those people don't grab at it? And then again as well, you've got the people who are the high D, high I's, who might go, fantastic, so I'm really up for all of this lot. Getting them to actually follow through, to complete all the paperwork, to set up that first meeting, to actually start taking action, that might be the challenge. So again, it's about understanding that so you yourself feel confident about it all. So I'm giving you loads of things to think about people types and being able to that look and listen thing. So the second thing that I want to talk about is understanding the needs and wants of a client. Okay. So if I think about the needs of a client, there are various ways you want to think about it. And I know we've talked about this lot before, okay? But if you talk about it with a client, you're obviously going to try and find out what they want and what they need are not always the same thing. Okay, we need to understand that. You have to give them a bit of both. Okay, we know what they need because we've seen it in all these businesses. We know that there's what the challenges are. We know we can help them with all these things. So we know what they need. The question is, how do we then help them? How do we help them actually see that and engage with us with the wants and needs? So we all know that people work either away from pain or towards gain. The easiest thing with most of the different profiles is to talk about pain. So the obvious thing is, what are your key challenges? What is keeping you awake at night? Okay, what is keeping you awake at night is often a killer question. Okay, what is the stress? Now, if they've got things that are keeping them awake, obviously that's our quick win bit. If we can solve that issue, that is our quick win. We could make a massive difference to people just by doing that. So if we can do that, if we can do that quick win, then it would be great, wouldn't it, to just actually get people engaged so that they see value from us immediately. So knowing this, if we can think about that, if we can get them to write down whatever their pain is, if we can think about that, if we can talk about that, then that's a good start. And it's important as well. You might remember I said earlier about listening to the tone and the passion. So again, how really important is this to them? What difference would it make if, they could change this? So understanding that is really important. Now, once you know all of this stuff, it's very useful because it helps you plan moving forward. And there's different ways of getting that. The second way, obviously, the pain's great because it gives you the quick win. But the other thing is you want to know their dream. Okay, what is the goal? Most of us, maybe I'm a bit, but most of us want to help. Okay, we want to make a difference. We want to change, and we think we've got the tools and the knowledge to make a difference. And we are also solvers. We are problem solvers. That's who we are. That's what we're passionate about, solving people's challenges and problems. The issue is understanding the problem, but also understanding the driving force for people. So understanding people's dream is really, really important. Now, in System Builder, there is the action resource on goal setting. And I've brought this up before. I brought it up in a previous trading session that I did about starting with business, giving business growth advice. And I think it's a lovely short tool to look at. So some of you, I've asked you to do it on yourselves as well, to think about what are your personal goals, what are your business goals, how are you spending your time in your business now, how are you spending your time generally now, and then what are the numbers you would like it to be. Most of you have seen Steve do that sheet of A4 paper where he has 3 columns, and on the first one you put in the numbers that are important to you. So for example, it might be profits, it might be cash flow, it might be hours worked in my business, it might be blood pressure, it might be whatever else those is, and then you put in the numbers that they are now and the numbers you want them to be. And this is your picture, this is the goal, and I think that sheet is incredibly valuable. If you can do that with your client, that sheet should be then stuck on the wall, okay? That's the client's goal, that's what they're working towards. And we're going to come back to how important that is later on. Obviously, another way of getting people engaged with business growth is to show them what other businesses have done. So the Gerber video is the obvious one to show. Most people, that touches a nerve, and it's a great way to talk to people about that change can happen. Okay, there are also some amazing stories, aren't there, in the world's most inspiring accountants, of how other accountants have done things that have helped their clients and made changes, and things that you could do. None of it is rocket science, it's just applying things differently. So look at that. If we talked about pain earlier, if the pain is cash, if literally that is I have no cash, then let's do the quick win for that. Let's look at those resources about debt collection. You have a whole series of resources about debt collection. You could just share them with your client. Or you can look at those 2 sheets, how to improve your profits, how to improve your cash flow. that are there already inside System Builder for you to work through with your client. You can talk to them about how they get paid. There's for those of you advanced members, there's a BBF on getting paid, which is fantastic, which you can again engage with your client on, looking through those things. You could do all sorts of things, can't you? Even get them through to setting up direct debits or using PayPal or using whichever one that you want to use. But there are ways of getting paid. And so thinking you want the quick win, so you've got that. And you also then want to think about the dream, and you want to paint the picture. So how do we paint the picture? Well, first of all, it has to be personal to them. Okay, so it's not just what the picture could be of what their work looks like, and their picture could be about what their business looks like. Okay, but you paint the picture of the dream, and if it can be visually represented by something, then do it. So, for example, several years ago, I was working with a member, and their goal was to take every Friday off to play golf. Okay, simple enough goal. Okay, but currently they were working 60-hour week. So how do I get them down to working 4 days a week from that? But that was our goal, and that was what we took steps on doing. Now, in order to keep him motivated, I went online and found a motivational picture that had golf in it as in the background, and sent him the poster, put it on his wall in front of him, so that every day he was looking at this picture going, oh yeah, I'm going to be there on that golf course. Okay, and doing that kept him motivated. So it's important to think about it and try and make some picture. Now, people are motivated by different things, okay? So it's tapping into that, creating that picture. Is it a financial thing? Is it their retirement? Is it a house in the south of France? Is it their yacht? I don't know. Is it just is the wrong word. Is it actually just making sure that they can afford their children's university fees? Whatever it is, pictures on their walls for those visual people, those people who need to see stuff, give them stuff there, okay? And the idea is to keep coming back to those. One of the great tools that you can show people is in the System Builder is the Making It Happen Kickstart questionnaire. So I'm just going to go through this, and it is quite a big document, but I do want to share it with you because I think it's quite important. So just minimize that, and I'm just going to share screen. There we go. I'm hoping you can all see this now. Make it bigger. Okay, so this is the Business Edge Making It Happen Kickstart questionnaire. So for those of you that haven't come across it yet, I'm just going to minimize that a little bit so that I can see the chat box if it comes up. For those of you that haven't really looked at the Making It Happen program, the Making It Happen program is one of the resources of an advanced member that is a fully mapped out process for helping a business grow, and it's designed to work initially over a year, but it can go over whatever period you like. And it all starts with understanding your client. And just like earlier I mentioned the action resource goal setting, which is a very small little document, this is quite a meaty document here, which explains a bit more, gets people to think really, really clearly about the business. And the whole point of this is for them to get clarity in their heads about their business, for you to get clarity so that you know how to direct them. So I'm just going to work through this just a little bit to just show you. So some of these are big picture, okay, personal ones. And again, some of these might be relevant to them and might not be. So if you won 10 million on the national lottery, what would you do differently in your life? Okay, so this is the ultimate dream. I'd sell up and I'd have a trip around the world. Okay, do we need to sell up to have a trip around the world? How could we fund a trip around the world? How could we make your business work without you so you could have a year's trip around the world? There's loads of things you could talk about, isn't there, when that happens? If the doctor told you would enjoy perfect health for 12 months and then drop dead, what would you do with your final year? Of course, a bit of a tough question, that, isn't it? But again, we're trying to really nail down the key thing for that business owner. When will you want to retire from or hand over or sell your business? And how much do you want it to be worth at that time? Now, this is another one of those great questions because people have this sort of, I don't know why they all say, I want it to be worth £1 million, £2 million. They have this number that comes out of nowhere. Absolutely no idea where it comes from. They usually just say, I want a couple of £1 million here. Okay, but first of all, you're going to get a date. You might not know that already about your client, about when they want to retire and how much you want it to be worth. That, again, understanding how much you want it to be worth can probably help fund question 1 and 2, can't it? How is that? Why is that? And those of you who haven't yet used the personal balance sheet, this is a perfect tool to add on to this then afterwards. So how much you want it to be worth at that time? Right, let's really work out what your business is worth now, and actually how we're going to get your business to be valuable enough to give you the assets within your personal balance sheet to be able to have all that stuff going on. Of course, the other thing that this is about systems, isn't it? System builder. That's the could show the Gerber message. How do you get out of your business and it be worth something? What do you want to be remembered for as a person? What legacy do you want to leave? Okay. Often I see this comes up, we have it on our AVN vision. We have a tombstone, which on it says make a difference. And what do we want to leave behind? What do we want to be remembered? They don't have to be big things. And this is the other thing. Some people think, I need to be remembered for changing the world. No, actually, no. Changing one person's life is enough. But what do you want to do? If you found a magic wand and it could grant you 3 wishes, what would they be and why? Bit of fun in there sometimes, depends on the person, doesn't it? But again, their answers could tell you a bit about the person, I'd want to be invisible so I could watch my team and see what they do every day. Okay, very different, doesn't it, from other things? What are the things you really want in life? Okay, so just some answers, no right or wrong answers. And what are the things you really don't want in your life? Okay, so we talk about pain and gain. This is the pain. For some reason, I don't want to suddenly get dementia. Those sort of things. There are things on there that trigger in ourselves things. So it might be one of the things. How many hours do you actually work? And how many would you prefer? How many weeks holiday do you take? How many would you prefer? What gives you the greatest feeling of pleasure or satisfaction in your life? Okay, this is again, understanding the person. And what gives you the greatest feeling of pain in your life? And that key question I mentioned earlier, what keeps you awake at night? Here on a scale of 0 to 100, where 0 is terrible, 50 is average and 100 outstanding, how good are your skills at these things? This is about being honest, okay? Because we all know that we're not good at everything. So this again allows you, when you get this, to think about who else is in their team. Look at system builder, look at the organization chart with them, maybe go, okay, which box should you be in? Which boxes shouldn't you be in? How are we going to get you out of those boxes? Really useful. And how happy does your business make you now? Again, this might be a resource that you want to do yourself. It's quite interesting when you read it, isn't it? So I'm very stressed. I'm very unhappy. I don't get paid nearly well enough. I feel trapped. We're about the same as everybody else. It's good and bad. The harder I work, the more I get rewarded less than I want. There is stress sometimes. Well, I'd love it. Pays me well. I love coming to work. Choices there. And then anything else. And then looking at those questions then, which were all sort of, weren't they, the sort of key things. What are the top 10 priorities in your life? And along each of your answers, explain what you're currently doing to achieve each priority. So they might not be doing anything. So again, this is really helpful to you. What factors are going to make it hard for you to achieve these priorities? Okay, so all those excuses. We do this at masterclass, don't we? Do you remember on day 3, you sit there, you do your action planning, and Steve says to you, what is going to stop you doing it? And we get everybody in the room to go, oh, this is going to stop me, this is going to stop me. And we all go, right, how can we stop that happening? What can we do to make sure that those things do not get in the way? And again, having those discussions. Okay. And then we've talked about them personally, and then more about business. So, what does your business do, make or sell? So that's a sales pitch in a way, isn't it? That'd be interesting to see how they write about what they do. Because again, if this is not good enough, if this doesn't tell you what they're passionate about, what their business is doing differently, then again, it gives you an in to talk about marketing. You have a whole suite of marketing results. You've got a marketing toolkit. You can use all that information with your clients too. What does your business need to do, and where does it need to go to be? How does it need to operate, and what does it need to look like in order to help you achieve the personal priorities you set out in the previous section? Okay, so this is thinking again that your business is a means to an end. Your business should be servicing you. It should be giving you something. What happens is often we find these business owners set up their business and end up working for their business. It's like Gerber message. Business fools working in their business. And the idea is the business should stand there and help the business owner achieve what they want out of life. And it's a big mind shift to be able to do that, but that's what they want. So let's help them. So what are the 5 key changes you will need to make to turn your existing business into the one you have just described? What are the biggest challenges facing your business today? What are the biggest challenges likely to face your business in the future? Really good to think about that, okay? We can't stand still. Technology is really changing everything out there. What can we do? What do you want your business to be remembered for? Okay, that's interesting as too, isn't it? You often hear about that on the television. I think, oh, there's such a business and why you remember them. If you could change 3 things about your business, what would they be and why? And then obviously one for you, have you benchmarked your business in the last 3 years? So you can do that for them. How many products have you launched this year and what proportion of your total sales do they account for? This is about innovation. We talked about you can't stand still. So what are you doing different? And how many different ways are you using the internet? And then how good is your business at? And here are all the different areas. Okay, marketing, sales, charging what you're really worth, operations, customer service, after sales care, handling complaints, getting paid, producing reliable products and services, motivating people, training people, getting the best from people, generating new ideas and putting new ideas into practice, all those loads more. Launching products, making the most of leading edge technology, controlling costs, measuring exactly how well it's doing all the time. Oh, look at all of those, aren't they great? What are they? They're all, aren't they, KPIs that could go on a 1-page plan. So if they're important in that business, you've already got a whole ton of information to help build a 1-page plan already. So here we go. Then here we talked about the type of business. So no systems, some systems, completely systemized. Again, talk about system builder. And then where would you like them to be? So again, talk about how we can change that. And then what are your top 10 priorities for your business? They're already narrowing down their action plans for you already. And again, what's going to make it hard for you to achieve these? So again, we're talking, and I talked about different profiles. The D's will go over virtually nothing, whereas the C's they'll have loads of things that they'll think of that can stop them doing it. So let's help them build a step-by-step plan so that they can manage it. Do you have a written business plan? Okay. Business plan doesn't mean numbers, does it? It means about a picture of what you're going to do and some milestones of when you're going to achieve it. And how well does your business plan address every single one of those priorities that you stated up here? Okay. Then we'll look at customers. How do you get and keep customers? Okay. So it's really good, isn't it? It's really detailed, this, and it's part of the Making It Happen program. And the Kickstart questionnaire is intense, and it obviously takes a lot of thought on the part of your client. And it might be something that you want your client to come in and do, just say, come and sit in an office. I've got a quiet space, might have a comfy seat and a cup of coffee. Come and just sit down and just take half a day out of your working life and just come and think about this stuff. They might not finish it all in half a day, but come and, gut reaction to all these things, because this is going to start a great journey with us where we know we can help you with all these things. It's doing all the selling for you, this document, because it's coming up, opening ideas, is opening minds for ideas. So who's responsible for coming up with ideas for marketing initiatives, producing written material, making each marketing initiative actually happen? And how do you evaluate and test them before launching them fully? How do you measure exactly how well each of those initiatives works, how quickly they worked, and how much profit they earned? And that's the other thing, isn't it? Keeping a handle on those numbers, again, which we're really good at, aren't we? Numbers. And part of, I was telling you this, in System Builder, there is a marketing system that has a document all about how you measure marketing initiatives, how you track how it is, and how much profit they earn. It's a great little spreadsheet. You should use it. What type of customers are you targeting with your marketing, and why? Do you have a written description of the ideal customer? How do you identify who to target? What is the lifetime value of each customer group? Okay, this is a key one. If any of you are listening to Mark Wickham, he always talks about lifetime value of a customer. Okay, thinking about it long term. What do we do to keep them longer and keep the lifetime value? How many systems do you have for systematically getting more referrals, recommendations, those sort of things? How many do you get? And do they cost you anything? Some people offer discounts off other services they're going to offer. Okay, and then a little bit about customer satisfaction. They may not know these numbers. Again, it's another thing that may be something that needs to go on the 1-page plan if you don't know it. Then different types of mailing. Some people still do direct mail and telesales and advertising, press releases, all the other ways that you generate sales leads. Okay, and how valuable they are. You see, I know a lot of people who spend a huge amount of money on their websites, supposedly to help them generate leads, but they don't build anything in to track the leads that are generated by the website, and where there's and the type of people that website is engaging with. So again, you spent a lot of money, and are you getting rewards? So it's tracking. It might just be, again, putting some little thing in the website. It's a little tiny thing that just sends you a message that tracks stuff for you. Any marketing initiatives that didn't work, always good to learn and find out why. And then conversion, lead conversion. So who's responsible for managing all this? Okay, recording sales, following up sales, monitoring sales. And do you reward the sales team? Do they have a reward system? See, I know that there are some of you members out there who have reward systems for your team for getting what we call extra work orders. So, and that's a cool thing, isn't it? Because if your budget, your business budget allows for just the gross recurring fee, and your team are actively looking for extra work orders, actually looking to sell Benchmark for you, or to sell System Builder or SSTW or BoardView or any of those services, and they are looking actively to get you in front of a client to do that, then it could be that it's worth giving them an incentive to do it for you. You know, rather than their heads down in the doing the work, they think, oh yeah, that might be good. And then about what happens with following leads. What about sales scripts, objection handles? You have all this stuff in System Builder that we have written for you. There is stuff in the business edition of System Builder for them to use too. Okay, so there's stuff in there. So you can put part of the Making It Happen program is designed that as part of the full Making It Happen program, you would put in the business edition of System Builder into their business. So again, you can point them to the resources that will help them. What is your USP? Why should people buy from you instead of somebody else? What are the benefits and the features? And then what is your risk reversal? How do you get them to say, how do you go away from the risk? How do you prove to them that your stuff is really good? And if people can't afford you, how do you give them ways of paying you? What are the reasons do people give for not buying from you? Why do people choose to buy from your competitors? Do you know that? And what do you do when a potential customer decides not to buy from you? Whole process is there, so following through. So there's a whole load here about lead generation, with different ways of converting leads, and then getting customers to buy you more. So if you remember, this all is linked in a way, starting to be SSTW, getting more customers, getting them to buy more, getting to buy more often. It's all that sort of things. So we're just asking them questions again. What do you do? What do you do now? So that you could then later show them, if these things resonate with them, you can then show them SSTW, sell them an initial consultation with SSTW, and then obviously follow-ups, where actually it's now, let's see some examples of what other people have done. Could we apply that? How does it affect the numbers? So this is all about prices and how you get people to buy more from you. How do you keep customers longer? Why have customers left you in the past? What are you going to do to prevent this happening? And then another key number is what percentage of your customers left you last year have been with you more than 2 years, have been with you more than 5 years? And then we're going to start looking at what's called the nuts and bolts of the thing. So those of you that have done the Business Edge program, this is a similar wording. And that's, again, in System Builder for advanced members. So this is about your team, morale and motivation. How do you encourage them? Who gets involved in decision making? Knowing, again, what I told you earlier about all the disc profiling, okay? Understanding that everybody has strengths that they bring to a business. You know, are the right people doing the right roles? Are they in the right box? Can you help them be involved? Should there be people who should be involved in decision making who aren't, because of the way that the current business is currently run? But if they were involved in decision making, would just make that business fly. And then again, how do you help them? How do you identify and help them with efficiencies and cost savings? System Builder, what's the main bottlenecks? Systems again. Turnaround time, receiving a customer order and getting the goods in the customer's hands. What proportion of your customers pay you in full, on time, every time? And how much money have you lost in bad debts over the last 3 years? Some key numbers here. And sometimes they don't know these numbers. And when they do find out the numbers, they can be quite shocking. Again, giving people focus. And this second bit, like I said, was about understanding, but actually getting a clear vision of what's going on. Okay. And then obviously it analyzes it. So there are 102 questions in there. It's a massive document, but it's really, really valuable. And I think it's one of those things that it could make a phenomenal difference to a business. The next thing, obviously, is that having done that, you could also talk to them about potential. What is the potential in their business? So they see where they are now. They're now seeing where their weaknesses are and their strengths. They can see what's going on in their business. Like I said, I think that Kickstart questionnaire is invaluable, because not only does it help you to understand your client, they are understanding themselves as well. And so it's really important that sort of happens. But then you want to look at the potential, don't you? So if I just share my desktop again, and I'm hoping this works because I'm on a Mac and I've not done this before. So here we go. This is a good test, isn't it, to see whether or not you can see this. Okay, so as an advanced member, one of the simplest tools to talk about potential is business potential. SSTW is a great tool, and it's one of those tools that would work really well with people who are high S, high C, lots of detail, want some information, can see how everything works, can see examples, okay? But it wouldn't particularly work with a high D, okay, or high I, because they haven't got time for all of that. So let's look at something that's much, much simpler. So having looked at something like business potential, you just put in some very basic key things. It's like the front page. This is the first version. We made this before SSTW. It's really good about talking about those key sales drivers. Now, what I wanted to show you was, if you've done something like the Kickstart questionnaire and you know that these are the areas that need sorting out, prices and customer considerations, so increasing the number of customers, how often they buy, how much they spend, reducing defection rate, this is a really great tool to show how effective it could be on their bottom line. And knowing that, the fact that you are going to help them make some changes means that when they look at how the effect be compared to how much you're charging, that value equation starts to come in place. And that's really the third thing, is about getting people to connect to value. But just very quickly, gosh, running out of time already, conscious of time, is that this is the tool you would use. The things I want to show you is over here, can you see this little question mark? I'm not sure if you can see it. Okay. As an advanced member, obviously not in front of the client, but there are a whole load of business edge questions that are linked to every single one of these things, okay? So you can go through to System Builder and find the business edge question that will explain to you a question. It has an expert in a box that explains how you use the question, how you position it, what the outcome is that you expect, and how you could do the follow-on. So just a great tool, I think, for just sort of talking about those sorts of things. Let me just. So I wanted to just really move on a little bit, because I'm conscious that I've already talked now, and I'm sorry about that. I knew I was going to have loads to talk about. The important thing, stop the share. The important thing is to think now about, once you've got all that information, creating a strategy that fits the profile of the person. So I've mentioned it loads of times. Sorry, I'll talk to you in a minute, Ian. Sorry, I'm just going to just deal with that in a second. So I've talked about it loads, okay? So those people who are go-getters, the action plan is the strategy, will probably quite a swift timeline, will be boom, 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 we need to get all these things done, lots of milestones that can be managed very quickly. And then you might need to say to them, part of what I am offering you is actually engaging your team to make this happen, because they might not be the right people to engage their team, talked about it earlier, their leadership style is directing, telling people what to do. That's their communication style. That might not be the best way of getting the results you want. So it's important that we get that right, that you create a strategy that meets the profile. The strategy starts with a quick win, but then has all the other things you need. On the action plan, you need to make sure that there are milestones, and in those milestones, it's who's going to be involved in their team, when are those milestones going to be completed, and why. Why are we doing this? All the time back to why are we doing this? And that's another thing I think that's really important if you're creating an action plan, which means that other people are going to be involved. We talk a lot in System Builder about the why we do it here. Why is that stuff here? And so it's important to explain that, to make sure that people understand the why. I'm just going to flick into System Builder then, but it doesn't matter. So if we can explain the why and they remember the pain and the gain, it works really well for us all. Okay. The other thing that I would think you should always ask for is nagging rights, we call it, which is where you ask the client that for permission as part of the business advice work, part of the business development work you're going to do, that you have the right to contact them on a regular basis and remind them of the action plan and see where they are and are they on track. And this is great because then you can help them celebrate when they achieve goals, but if they don't, you're in there going, right, what happened? What stopped you doing it? What are the things that we could do to make things different? Okay. And obviously, and the third thing in my three things was actually about measuring and connecting back to value. Okay, so I'll just share my screen again. There we go. Sorry, guys. So one of the biggest things, I'll just make that a full page. Okay. Is to think about measuring the key numbers, because we need to measure stuff and bring them back to the value so that when they ask, I don't want them ever to say that you weren't worth the money that you charge for that work, because you need to bring them back to those key numbers. So measuring back them to the key numbers, obvious, the one-page plan is a simple way of doing that. But you need to make sure that you keep those numbers relevant. You could put in hundreds, particularly if you've done that Kickstart questionnaire, there are lots of things in there, but you want to keep it relevant. So make sure that those key numbers are relevant. If you don't have advanced member tools, then obviously you could use the A4 sheet and just keep coming back to, these are the numbers that you wanted. Where are we towards that number? How can we move that? Business valuation is also a great one of measuring numbers. You know, we talked about what's the business worth. Use it at the beginning of the journey and then use it maybe a year later and have a look and see, is the value, potential value of the business grown because of the work you've done with them, either on systems or improving profits. And keeping them connected to those key numbers and always making sure that those numbers are reviewed. So that's a case of selling them board view, isn't it? You need to be in there reviewing those key numbers and discussing the change. And the other thing is, I think you need to make sure that you show the true value of the changes of those numbers. A simple scale could be on a scale of 1 to 10. Where are you now in this particular area? Where would you like to be? So I could be at 2 now and I want to be at 8. Right, great. And then, I don't know, 3 months later, you are at a 2. Where are you now? Oh, I'm at a 4. Fantastic. We're halfway towards your 8. What have we done? Great. Let's celebrate that. What do we need now to do the next 2? Can we get you to 5? How can we get you to 6? So it could be something as simple as that. The other thing is to make sure, well, it's like some people to remember that some people will never have a 10. Okay, so if you want people to value stuff, so for example, it could be on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you value what we've done today? There are some people who will never give you a 10. They are just that sort of person. Be fine. It's fine about it. What you do is you need to monitor, does that change that number? So if they gave you a 7 today, but you could tell they were ecstatic about what you did, and next time you come through and they give you a 7 again, but they're still ecstatic, that 7 is their 10 in a way. It's the best you're going to get possibly. If you get an 8, wow, you're going to be really celebrating. The other thing is to think about the value not only in terms of money. Everybody thinks about their financial change, so it's very easy to say, oh, look, I've changed your sales, I've changed your profits, I've changed your costs, but actually thinking about putting a true value on changes in time and effort. So if you want to go back to that very simple A4 sheet, or even the goal setting tool, you know, how many hours do you work now? How many hours do you want to work? And if they've got part way and you've saved 6 hours a week, what is the value of those 6 hours to you? Okay, how much is it of value in time? But it could be a monetary value. But actually, what is it allowing you to do instead? Reconnecting them back to that picture at the very beginning of their goals, the vision. You remember I said sometimes you could have a picture on the wall. Reconnecting that so that always talk about time and talk about effort. So, you know, how stressed were you at the beginning? On a scale of 1 to 10, how were you stressed were you when we started this? Where are we on now? You know, it could be anything like that. The other thing I would like to show you, I'm just wondering if it's going to let me show you. Let me just stop this share. If I can. Not quite used to this Mac yet. So the other document I want to show you is called the Are You Happy form. Okay, this is a really lovely little document. It's in System Builder. I always say that, but it is System Builder. And this is about, again, we're talking about the third step. So the third step is measuring value, reconnecting it back to you. Okay, so for every time you work with them, every single time, you should be doing something like this, an Are You Happy form. Okay, and you can either choose to send it out in the post. I know that Greenstones have a digital, like an iPad in the reception that people can do as they're leaving. You can do it however you like, okay? But it's a great tool because you want to get feedback and you want to connect value. So I have just done board view with you, for example. So I would put in my name, my date. Thanks for doing board view with me today. Looking at what everything you've done, I'm delighted. And so far with the board view process, I'm absolutely delighted. I feel this way because every time you come, you give me a great idea that I can apply. To make me even happier, you could come more often. You know, it might be that you only go quarterly, or you might come, so you might want to come monthly. So it's just an option to do something different, but maybe get some more work. And the other thing with this document is that further down, there is an offer to get more referrals for you. So again, looking for other people who you could help. So I think this is a great one. There is one that's part of Making It Happen in the Business Edge questions that is very similar. And that does one at different points within the process. So Business Edge is a 6-month process. And so 3 months in, it does a review to check. The other thing is this is great because if you're not happy, okay, you can fix it. You can get it sorted. You don't want people triggering any guarantees or causing other problems with you. You want to get it sorted and get some feedback from you. So that's really important. And also, if they've come back and said delighted, you know, I know we keep saying this, but capture that. Say, you know, what you've written on this, I feel this way because, would you mind if I shared that? Can I put it would you mind if I wrote, would you write a testimonial around that for me? Or I can write it and you can just check it's okay. And can I put that testimonial on my website, put it on my marketing? You start getting that. And also, so you're connecting what you're doing for the client back to this great warm, fuzzy feeling that they're happy with you and the money's not an issue. So I've covered an awful lot today, and I did get into things slightly longer than I expected, and I do apologise for that. But what I just want to check, is there anybody that's got any sort of questions that they would like to ask me now? Because I'm conscious that I have overrun quite considerably. I'm sorry. So is there anything that anybody would like to ask me? As I said earlier, I have shown a lot of advanced member tools, and some of you might not have those tools. If it's something that you think would be really valuable to you, then please, you know, contact us and we'll talk about either upgrading you or, you know, or getting you on some training to find out whether it is something that you can apply. Okay. Is there anybody who would like to share anything from business growth work that they've already done? I mean, if there is, then please, you know, switch on your camera or your microphone and have a chat. Okay. Let's give you a few minutes to think about that. While you're thinking about that, I'm going to ask you to, oh, thank you. Right, let's have a look at the chat. Right, where can you find that info read goals in System Builder? That's easy one. Okay, so if you just go into the knowledge base and you type in goals, you'll come up with an action resource called goal setting. There's actually also a system in leadership about setting goals. So that's really easy. Business Potential is an advanced member tool, but SSTW isn't. It's a foundation tool. So if you have a client who you're happy to go through with that much detail, SSTW you could use, or you could show them as a taster. James, you've put, what if I as the accountant need some of these types of help, which I would be offering to the client? Can you expand on that a bit, please, James? Excuse me. Okay, in a minute. All right, that's fine. What I would say is that, as you know, the AVN team are here for you all the time, and we hear stories about how people have applied these things all the time, and myself and Jenny have actually applied it in practice in the past. So anybody who needs any additional support or help, we are happy to do online training like now, or if you've got a client who is interested in something and you really haven't got a clue about how to use that moving forward, then as long as you are organised and you book your meeting with your client, say in 2 weeks' time, and you book a week after, before that to talk to us, we can get you ready. I have to say that there are some people who ring me up 5 minutes before a client comes in saying, how do I use? And unfortunately, that's a bit of a challenge because, as you know, we have our diaries booked for us all the time. But we would love to help with that. So the thing I think I probably haven't said is that you don't need all the answers. You never need all the answers with business growth stuff. Most of the time, the client comes up with the answers themselves. What you're going to do is spot things. Yeah, okay, James. So you were saying that perhaps some of these you haven't done yet, so you've not done benchmarking. So, for example, if the benchmark comes things, you could say to your client, that's fantastic. I would love to benchmark your business. I will come back in a week's time with some information about that. Then I myself or a member of the team can teach you all about benchmarking. There is actually a toolkit in System Builder for benchmarking that explains all about the software, how to use it, how to use the reports. But that might be one of those tools that has toolkits. They don't all. And we can actually go through it all. And you can tell me about the client as well so that I can think about how you position it. Yeah. There are times you can't go from your own experience, but that's fine too, because you're part of a group of accountants that are nationwide now. So there will be other people who have got advice. And what I've noticed recently is the AVN Facebook page has been fantastic. There's lots of people on there who have been asking advice on all sorts of things, and people have literally just said, I'll call you, or I'll help you out, or here's my suggestions. I've been amazed. No, that's not true. I've not been amazed. I'm always amazed, because it just amazes me about how generous you all are sharing your knowledge and your learning with each other. And so the Facebook page could be another place you could, if you haven't already joined the Facebook page, if you just send your Facebook email address to info@avn.co.uk and ask to be added, then we'll invite you. It is a closed group, but it is available for all members, and we are finding that really, really useful. Okay. So I would like you to think about what actions you've set yourself now, okay? So I did set you a challenge quite early on, which was to think about the visual audio kinesthetic and test it. I'm hoping you took notes on it. If anybody wants any additional notes, please just drop me a line and I'll send you some information. If it's subject, if this visual audio kinesthetic and the profiling and stuff is something that really, really excites you, you think this is something that you could be passionate about, then drop me a line. It's possible that moving forward we could create a whole training event just on all of that. But So what actions have you set yourself? What things are you going to look at? If it's possible, why don't you do the Kickstart questionnaire, the Making It Happen Kickstart questionnaire? Or if you haven't got that, I can. Nicola, lovely. Can you send a copy of your disc profile summary page? I certainly can if you want. That's quite funny. Yeah, I have to tell you, it changes. That's the other thing that's quite interesting. When I joined AVN, I was a very quiet, reserved lady. I know it's difficult to tell now. And I was very high C, high S. My I was through the floor, as was my D. What happens is, as you learn, as you grow, as you develop new skills, you change. Ultimately, I'm still up there with the high SIC, but my I and my D have risen in response to the needs of my job and the way I need to perform. But yes, I'm quite happy to do that. It's quite funny. Yes, I will do that. Like I said, if you want to do your own, if you want to do it for free, go on the Tony Robbins website. That's quite a fun one to do. Give you some ideas. And if it's something you want to share with whoever you're talking to in the CAT team, that would be nice too. That would help us too. So what actions you're going to do? And if you want to be held accountable for those actions, if you would like to give myself or the rest of the AVN team nagging rights, we would love to help with that. Okay? We would love to keep you on the straight and narrow and keep it moving. That's what we would love to do. And if you want to do that, then you can just email members@avn.co.uk with your actions and your deadlines, and say I'm putting in the subject line nagging rights. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. Yeah. Okay. So our next online training. Well, first of all, if you haven't already booked, the 6th of October is the AVN conference. Monday, there was less than 20 places left. So if you haven't already booked, please, please, please book this week. As an AVN member, foundation above, you have a free place, and you should have had a code to get your free place. If you've not got that, you've lost it or disappeared, again, drop me a line. I'll get that code sent out to you so you can come on. If you're a pricing member or a trialist, then you do need to pay for your place this time, but it will be free, obviously, when you move up to foundation next year. So it's worth looking at. We have some amazing speakers again this time. So if you haven't already booked on it, then please do. And then the other thing is that I'm just going to share my screen again. Oops. Sorry. It's interesting, isn't it, when you learn new tools? I'd like to remind you that the next lunchtime training session is on the 12th of October, and it's how to sell without feeling like a salesperson. So none of us are salespersons, people, are we? We're here to help, but that's one of the great things that we could do. So I just wanted to flag that to you. So if you want to book on that, please do. You just go to the AVM website, to the training, and that way you can just book your place on, just as you've done now. Okay. So has anybody got anything else to ask? Because obviously I've noticed I'm probably 2 minutes to 2. Anything else that I need to answer? Okay, so the recording will be available. I'll stick it up on our YouTube unlisted, but if you really want to look at it earlier, just let me know and I'll send you the link. Okay, I hope I've been helpful today. I hope I've given you lots of things to think about. It's quite funny when you set a task of 3 secrets, you suddenly realise there's loads of things as it starts. And it's like Michael has just said to me, you never stop learning. So thank you very much to everybody. And I hope you have an absolutely great day. See you soon. Bye.